Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we're going to call to order the City of Florence, South Carolina Board of Zoning Appeals for August 25th, 2022. First thing is call to order. Next thing, we're going to approval of minutes. The regular meeting held on July 28, 2022. We've all had an opportunity to go over and look at the minutes and make any amendments or adjustments as needed. Is there a motion to approve the minutes and carry on?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes with any necessary corrections.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favors signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. The minutes are approved. We will move on to the third portion, which is a public hearing and matter in position for action. BZA-2022-10. It's a request for a special exception permit to allow a short-term rental to be located at 311 South Franklin Drive in the NC-10 zoning district, shown as tax map number 90-047-04-002. And I'm under understanding that NC is Neighborhood Conservation.
Neighborhood Conservation. Exactly.
Thank you, Derek.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and now we will, the date of this is August 25th, 2022. I'm going to have to go through this. The request is a special exception permit to operate a short-term rental as required by Table 1-2.72-B in the Unified Development Ordinance for a residence. The location, again, it's 311 South Franklin Drive, tax map number 90-047-04-002. Owner of record, Susanna M. LaRochelle. Rochelle? Rochelle. The applicant is as well as Susanna M. LaRochelle. Zoning district is NC-10 Neighborhood Conservation-10. The board will now hear from city staff.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So this is 311 South Franklin Drive. It is at the corner of South Franklin Drive and Madison Avenue. Here, the zoning is listed as Neighborhood Conservation 10. So by the zoning ordinance, it does require that they get permission from the Board of Zoning Appeals for a short-term rental. And then our ordinance defines a short-term rental as a furnished residential unit rented out by the property owner for financial gain. It can't be more than 29 days straight for the rental and not more than 72 days throughout the calendar year. So that's what Mrs. La Rochelle is applying for. So for the conditions for short-term rentals, in order for it to be approved, it has to meet these conditions in the code. So it must be operated by the owner and full-time resident of the property, no more than 2 bedrooms in the primary residence, so it has to be taxed at 4%, not 6%. It has to be their primary residence. They'll keep a guest registry. Parking will be on driveway or an improved surface. No exterior signage advertising for the short-term rental or Airbnb. And it's for lodging purposes. It's not for wedding venue, parties, conferences, and it will be operated in accordance with city ordinance, whether that be noise or light or any state regulations that may apply or any federal that may apply. So here's some site photos of South Franklin Drive. This is the front. It is a corner lot along Madison Avenue. And if it is approved tonight, the city will still be able to have codes enforcement do inspections of the site to make sure it is meeting the conditions of the ordinance and take appropriate action as necessary. Non-compliance with any of the conditions could result in the revocation of the special exception permit. So that does conclude staff's report.
Thank you, Derek. Is there any questions from the board, for the city, from the board? Well, We'll get there. Y'all are next. Yes, sir. Is there any questions from the board for the city at this time? Okay, I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me, Derek. I'm curious. The public, it's great to have them all come in. So we've had quite a response from the public.
Yes.
And so has the city, has it been favorable? Can you let us know about that before we get into it with them? What was the city
Right.
city stance once they heard from the public?
Right.
That's
A
what
lot
I
of
wanna ask.
curious phone calls wondering what exactly the special exception permit was applying for. And then I would say that it would weigh more negatively than positively. And we'll hear that during the public portion of the meeting.
Okay, but from the city stance,
From the city stance, neutral, but from the public, we were hearing curious phone calls too.
right? Yeah, of course, the city neutral, but as in the feeling coming from the public as a city
Right.
working for, you
Yes.
guys calling.
Yes.
Y'all felt a negative sense,
Yes,
and obviously we're seeing a response to that and good work from the city.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yes,
that.
sir. Thank you, Derek.
Okay, Derek, you said this will not be used as an Airbnb? It's just like,
This is the city's definition for an Airbnb. So we define it as a short-term rental. So you would see this if she were to get a special exception permit. This is something that you would see on Airbnb, the website.
I have another question. Do you
can
know?
it be advertised as an Airbnb?
Right, no signage on the house, but online they can advertise as an Airbnb.
Airbnb is a trademark name. It's just,
Right.
same like vacation rentals by owner that's online. And, municipalities, or in the real estate world or the rental world, it's defined as a short-term rental. And most communities define it as 29 days or less consecutively, so less than a month rental at a time. And, but we put in place some further restrictions that it can only be rented a maximum of 72 days per year. That limits you, that way it can't be rented out every night. But it does give someone the ability to rent it out most weekends and things of that nature.
So you said 29 days consecutively, but can't go over 72 days for the whole calendar year.
That's
So they can go to 28 days and stop 29th, jump on the 30th, but cannot pass 72.
That's right. That's
Did
right.
he answer your question, Ms. Moses?
That's right.
I think we had a question.
You
got it. Thank you so much, Mr. Dudley, and thank you, Derek. Is there any other questions? Mr. Dudley? All righty. Thank you so very much from the city, Mr. Dudley and Mr. Johnston. Thank you so very much. Okay, now the board will now hear from the public at this time. And what I'm going to ask y'all to do is when y'all come up, if y'all come up one at a time, I'm going to swear y'all in, simple, and then y'all can just tell us your side and brief as possible, and just let us know y'all's feeling inside. And thank y'all so much for being here. So board will now hear from the city. I mean, from the.
Chairman, should we hear from the applicant?
Yes. I apologize. I am so sorry. We're going to need to hear from. Is the applicant here tonight?
I'm
Derek?
actually not sure. I haven't
Thank
met
you,
the
sir.
applicant. We weren't email speaking. It sounded like she was going to try to make it.
I believe she's on her way in.
Okay. Is it? I'm not sure what Robert's Rule of Order. Can we hear from them first, and when she comes in, she's here. Oh, look at. Hey, we were waiting. Hello. Are you Miss La Rochelle?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Well, we would now like to hear from the applicant, if you'd like, for the board. Perfect timing. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. First off, let me swear you in. Do you, do you swear, do you promise everything you say is the truth? And
absolutely.
okay, all right. You may begin. Thank you so very much for being here, and thank you for presenting.
Thank you. So my name is Suzanne La Rochelle. I live at 311 South Franklin Drive. We purchased this home in 2015, and And now my 3 children are, well, they were 12, 13, 14, and now they're 18, 17, 16. And 2 are not living at home any longer, and so I have a second floor that I would like to turn into an Airbnb in order to supplement my income, because my income is changing significantly due to child support ending. It's a large home, and the entrance to the second floor is on Madison, and there are no homes on Madison that the front door, on my block, the Madison Franklin block, there are no homes on that block where there's a front door at all. I have a separate parking space. So I don't believe it would impact the community at all. It would help me supplement my income so I would not have to sell the house. And that's the main reason I'm doing it, so I can remain living in the city and be involved in the community. And I'm a psychotherapist. I just got done seeing a client. I have an office on Coit Street, so I'd very much like to stay here. But if it involves selling my home, I may relocate out of the city, and I want to stay here. So that's it.
Thank you so very much. Ma'am, is there any questions from members of the board for the applicant at this time?
I have a question. Have you read through
Yes.
the rules and requirements of the city ordinance on
Yes.
short-term rentals? They're rather restrictive.
Right. I think it's 73 days a year. 72.
72.
And no more than 29 consecutive.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and there's like I said, we didn't go over them verbally here, but they're quite extensive as far as what the rules are.
I understand, and I read through them before I even submitted my application with $100, because why apply if I don't think I can follow the rules?
I have a question. Okay, and you said the entrance to the second floor where you be utilizing, that entrance is from Madison Avenue?
It's on it will be on Madison, yes. My front door is on Franklin. The front door to the Airbnb will be, it's a corner lot. You know, so I live on the corner of Franklin and Madison.
Okay, so that goes into my second question. How will parking be?
I have 2 parking lots.
Okay, so they'll be parking
There'll
from the
be
Madison.
off-street
end as
parking.
well.
Yep. There's at least two. I mean, you can park 4 cars there if you put them back to back, but there's definitely enough for 2 cars side by side.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So very, is there any other questions, Mr. Nathaniel? No. Okay, all right. Ms. Moses, I do have a question, ma'am. I was trying to, the city, man, they'll bend over backwards for you and help you as best as they can. I do have a question, but we're lacking some material. And so I'm just gonna have to shoot from the hip, but city, y'all are gonna have to kind of stand by and just kind of listen to me. You mentioned that there's, it stood out to me, and I understand you understand the rules and regulation. One of the special exception requests, it's, if y'all could provide it for me, it'd really make me better. But one of it is profitability. You cannot, you said income, you can't, we can't provide a special exception to offset your income or to favor you in any way possible in profitability. When you said income, excuse me, when you said income, it just stuck out that that's a favor, and that's one of the things, I'm not sure. But that's for the board to discuss, but me asking you that, when you said profitability, that is your stance, that if you don't get this, you will sell your house. Is that what you're saying?
Or get a second job.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I was extending, because we just, as a public, this is all public information, and I'm just trying to get the best knowledge before anybody makes a decision.
My understanding, and I read through all the bylaws, was that the city allowed a special request that I'm doing in my zoning area to allow individuals to rent a second bedroom. I know you can't rent more than 2 bedrooms. In order to maintain maintain their homestead. I mean, that's in the bylaws. So that's what I'm speaking to.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Nathaniel?
Jerry, you clear that up about the probability.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to clear it up.
The Board of Zoning Appeals, they can hear several different types of cases, from variance requests for zoning variances, special exceptions, or appeals to essentially staff's decisions regarding zoning questions. And in the case of a variance, where somebody's asking for like a setback variance or accessory building variances, which are quite common here, it can't be to provide, I guess, more monetary reward or monetary gain for the applicant. But in the case of a special exception, that is applied to certain uses which may be, I guess, subjective or need further scrutiny in some of our zoning districts. In this case, I believe, the short-term rental special exception was one of the, if you had an overabundance of or a critical mass of such use in a neighborhood, it could change the characteristics of that neighborhood. So in this case, a special exception, the financial gain doesn't necessarily come into question because most people are starting a business of some sort for financial gain. So in this case, the board would look at the conditions that are in place that by the city. They would verify that those conditions are met or could be met by the applicant. They will also look at the potential impact on the neighborhood of such a use, whether, in this case, a residential area, to see if it would be significantly impacted. And the board could then judge on that and or put conditions in place to mitigate those concerns. If a business was going in that had, let's say, excessive noise, then a vegetative buffer may be required or things like that. So in this case, the board just needs to make sure that it meets the conditions and that any potential negative impacts would either be mitigated through the conditions put in place by the city or that the negative impacts could be mitigated in some other way that could be suggested or made as part of a motion. Or, if it's not found that these conditions can be met, then they could deny the request.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. So, in essence, in the clear-cut things, we're just, profitability or anything else, this is a special exception. That's what we're going to hear from the public. But the city's recommendation was a little lacking, and so that's what we're.
Yep. Sorry,
And you did an excellent job of summing it up. Thank you so much, Mr. Dudley. Thank you so very much for being patient. And all right, thank you so very much again. Was there anybody else? I'm so sorry. Thank you for the applicant for her testimony, and we're going to go ahead and hear from the public now. The board. So if there's anybody from the public, what we can do is just like with her, one at a time, and I'll just swear y'all in, and by all means, thank y'all so much for being here. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank y'all. And we're moving right along. Thank y'all. Hey, good day, sir.
How are you doing?
Doing very well, thank you. First off, do you swear that what you're about to tell us, your testimony, is the truth as best as
Yes.
knowledge?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
Well, my name is Chandler Lassen. Have lived at 1013 Jackson Avenue my entire life, going on 28 years now. And it's a very historic neighborhood, nearly 100 years old at this point.
You said 1013. I'm so sorry.
1013 Jackson Avenue.
1013.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Sorry.
Very historic neighborhood, the first subdivision of Florence. Families from Florence, been here forever. And right now what we're looking at is I'm against this, coming to fruition. As the applicant stated, she just said that she's looking to supplement her income and looking to change, the dynamics of the neighborhood based on her own personal needs.
Thank you so very much, sir. Is there, one more second. Is there any questions for the applicant by members of the board?
I have a question. What are your specific concerns?
My specific concerns, well, one, our infrastructure. Currently our water's brown because of how bad the infrastructure is in the neighborhood. And seeing more users come in, it just isn't gonna help anything when there's no plans to fix anything.
I have a question. Okay, you say you stay at 1013 Jackson Avenue?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me about how far that is from the address
How far?
here? Yes. How far?
About 300 feet. You get around the corner. You get around the corner and it's 4 houses.
Okay. And you say around the corner off of Palmetto Street?
No,
Johnson
from
County?
Jackson to Franklin, around the corner.
Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you so very much, sir. Okay, is anybody else from the local community? How you doing, sir?
Good.
What's your name?
Philip Lassen.
Mr. Ladson. Mr. Ladson, thank you for attending. First off,
Thank you for having us.
Oh, of course. Thank you for being here. Do you swear that everything you're about to tell, your testimony is truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may proceed.
I also live at 1013 Jackson Avenue. I'm the homeowner along with my wife. And we bought this house about 32 years ago. And the reason we bought it was because we enjoyed the neighborhood. It was a very peaceful neighborhood. There wasn't a lot of traffic. There was families. Our kids played in the street. And I'm afraid that with this request that the dynamics of our neighborhood will be changed. Our house was built by Harry Gall almost 100 years ago. And Harry Gall was a jeweler here in Florence. And we know every person that built the houses on our street. So we're very involved in our community and very involved in the historic nature of our community. And I really think that the paradigm would shift if this request was to go through. And I'm just concerned about the traffic. I'm concerned about unknown people that we're not familiar with coming into the neighborhood. It's just not conducive for a residential neighborhood to have a business planted in the middle of it. And that's what this is. This is a business. And if we give this little bit of inch and it's contiguous to another property that somebody else wants, it's my understanding that zoning will encourage that you can leapfrog properties to properties to properties. And you know, go on to Palmetto Street, go on to Evans Street. There's plenty of places that can be done for this that are appropriate for this type of business. And we are not a business. We are a residential neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions from members of the board for the applicant at this moment?
Thank you all.
Sir, I do have a question for you. Thank you so very much for attending. And that's your son, I take it?
Yes, it is.
A very handsome young man. And sir, I do have a question. Lovely history. When you said putting a business in the middle of a residential neighborhood, that being said, businesses, I know, I'm young enough, I can remember, Mr. Nathaniel can remember, businesses, there was a grocery store in the middle of a neighborhood, and a lot of that stuff was well managed and well taken care of, family owned,
Yes,
and there was a lot of thriving businesses in the middle of neighborhoods. And that being said, I thank you so much for your insight, and that's
there
all.
was also a boom in 1946 in Florence with apartments because there was a shortage of our servicemen coming home in World War II, and that's where most of the apartments were built in the historic district because of that reason, because of the servicemen returning. So there is a lot
In
of
the
history.
60s, you said?
Pardon?
In the 60s?
No, sir, in 1946.
46.
World War II.
Gotcha.
Pineland, that whole area, that was all developed because of World War II.
Well, well managed, anything can flourish and succeed and have neighbors. But yes, sir. I just thank you so much for your insight, and thank you so much for being here. Is there anybody else that would like to be heard from the public or the neighborhood? And again, thank you all so much for showing up. Yes, ma'am. Please. How are you doing?
What's your name?
My name is Marla Coons.
Miss Coon?
Coons.
Coons. Miss Coons. Miss Coons, do you swear tonight that everything you're telling in your testimony will be truthful to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. You may proceed.
I don't talk well off the cuff, so I wrote it down. I hope you will accept that. My husband and I live on Franklin Drive in the same block as Miss Florence where she has asked to have the temporary rentals. In fact, my house is the house next to me is directly across the street from her house. I am against the temporary rentals so close to my house. I feel the neighborhood has enough issues without adding strangers coming in constantly. In fact, as I understand the stipulations, which allow 72 days in rentals, considering there are 52 weeks in the year, there could be some strangers in our neighborhood every weekend or more. If this is granted, I will be concerned about the safety when I walk my grandkids down the street. We always walk past 311 South Franklin Drive to get to Madison Avenue, where we always ride our bikes or stroll the kids. And then we have to walk past Franklin 311 again, going home. I would fear for their safety, and there are young people who live on Madison as well. There are a lot of people who walk down the streets. Ours has always been a family neighborhood. There are no attractions to suggest a temporary rental would draw the right kind of people. I feel there's no reason for a temporary rental to be here in this neighborhood. I'm not against temporary rentals. This is not a tourist destination to start with. Both my husband and I are against this temporary rental on our street and our block. We ask you to reject the application. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Is there any questions from the members of the board for the app?
I have one question from Mrs. Coombs. You said that you have issues already in your neighborhood. What are some of the issues that you have in your neighborhood?
Well, you know, Franklin has been used as a cut-through, so we do have a little bit of traffic, more than we like. And then there's loud noises from motorcycles.
Okay, another question. Do you know if you have a lot of rentals
I do
in
not
your
know how
neighborhood?
many rentals are in our neighborhood. I just know she's on our street
Okay, thank you.
and a couple of doors down from me.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Is there any other questions from members of the board? There being none, thank you so very much, ma'am. Is anybody else from the public or the neighborhood that would like to come express their views? Sure appreciate them. All right, there being none, we will.
I have a question for the city.
Okay.
One of the points brought up was saturation, or the domino effect.
Right.
That you have multiple, that more and more temporary rental properties move in.
Right.
That's one of the areas that the city council did address in the ordinance. Is that correct?
Each applicant would have to get a special exception permit. So each applicant for a short-term rental would have to go through the same process.
Right. And I thought I read it when I received the packet, but I can't find it now. Did I read correctly that this is the first temporary rental that would be in this neighborhood?
This is the first one that we are aware of, yes. We've had a few others in different parts of the city, but this is the first one in this vicinity. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, Derek. I'm not sure. Can we call her back up? Can I call, she looks like she has a question. May we call her back up?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yes, ma'am, please. And she's already been sworn in, so we can, okay. Follow. Yes,
I
ma'am.
want to address my neighbors' concerns, but first I want to say the people that are here are not my direct neighbors. None of the neighbors beside me or in front of me have any issues with my request. The second is, I have children in my home. I would never put my children at risk. The people that I would rent this through, if I use the Airbnb network, they all are required to have background checks. But again, I would never risk my daughter's safety. Thank you.
Ma'am, I got a question for you. Yes, ma'am, you said these are not the adjacent, and you said other neighbors. Do you have anything any letters, or is anybody here supportive of it?
I didn't know that was necessary. I could have got letters.
So is it a no? Is there any supporters here, or do you have any letters that nobody has any problem with this?
I was not advised that would be necessary.
Ma'am, I wouldn't advise that I was supposed to be chair tonight. I really, but yes, ma'am, I was just curious. That way I can help out as best as I can.
I could provide them to the city within 48 hours if that's necessary.
Well, that sounds like the city being right here in front of us. This case, it cannot move forward without a motion for or against from the board, and the city has the authority to.
That would require a continuance, though, which the Board of Zoning Appeals could grant, but we're looking at, do we want to meet back again in a couple of weeks to wait for letters?
Okay. Thank you so much, Derek. Ooh, that got loud. Thank you so very much. Is there any other questions for the applicant, or any other response or anything? Thank you so very much.
My neighbors know that my home is beautiful and very well maintained.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I respect our neighborhood and I want to keep it that way.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes. Would you come up here? We like to hear that fine young voice.
I just want to state for the record that Airbnb does not provide any background checks for applicants. Anyone can sign up for Airbnb. I mean, I have an account and never went through any sort of background check whatsoever.
Thank you so much, sir. Wait. Is there any questions from the board, Mr. Nathaniel?
There's no background check on Airbnb.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Moses?
I was told they did.
Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so much. Would you like to come back up?
I do think we need to avoid the back and forth if at all
I
possible.
have a dear friend who does an Airbnb, and that is what she told me, and she's guiding me through this process. But to date, I have not even, submitted an application, because why would I do that until I have approval from the city?
Yes, ma'am. Well, we were going to try to address that for you
Yeah.
tonight
And
make
furthermore,
everybody happy.
I'm trying to follow the law.
And you're doing the right thing by being here. Thank you so very much.
There are many rentals in our neighborhood that aren't following the law.
Thank you so very much, ma'am. Derek and Mr. Dudley, I think at this point we're going to, the board was going to seek or ask for a motion for a continuance. Is there a motion, sir?
I so move.
Okay, we got one in favor for a continuance, and before we carry through with this motion, I'd like to make a suggestion to the city that they could definitely rule this themselves and make everybody happy one way or another. They got all the answers there. They're doing the right things. Everybody else is doing the right thing. But we're gonna. Is there a second for a continuance?
Second.
Okay. All in favor for a continuum? Say aye. Aye. All right. The ayes have it. A continuum for this case, and ma'am, you will have plenty of time to work with the city, and the city will do anything for you. And so we'll come to some type of means, and you will refer to Derek.
We'll hear it at the next month's meeting.
Okay. Well, you have plenty of time to get with the city and whatever letters or everything else to help out. We'll move on to that next case. Okay. The next we have now. How do I call?
That is the only case for tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, that one was, the second case was withdrawn by the applicant.
All right, the second case, C in the BZA-2022-11 has been resolved, so we'll move on to adjournment. And so our next regular scheduled meeting is September 22nd, 2022. I'd like to, do I have a motion that we adjourn?
So move.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
The ayes have it for adjournment from this meeting. Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for the public being here, and also I want to point out our council, Florence City Council member in the very rear. Thank you so much for coming here and watching the low guys see how we work. We sure try to make y'all guys proud. And thank y'all so much from the city for coming here. Thank you for these guys hard working. Thank you, Derek.